Ladies and gentlemen, the long-awaited return has arrived. Soul of the Skull is back with our first ever college edition. We are obviously all in our dorm rooms, as you can tell. Yeah, I guess I don't know how much more there is to say other than that. Show ain't changing much. Check out the community posts if you ever want the updates. Again, we're in rooms now, so we got distractions around, but that's totally okay. This is the new era here. What is going on? So in today's episode, we're going to be going through a few different things. We're going to start by going through the Vikings roster and the depth chart, as well as the practice squad, followed by unleashing 3 predictions and going through what's come off the board. And then we got the 10 questions Vikings trivia game as we conclude. So with that said, if you guys want anything to say, you can say it. Otherwise,
good to be here.
Yeah,
it's fun to be back. Ready to keep the show going.
Yeah. Actually, me and Big Lou were at the Vikings game that was like a week and a half ago now.
Yeah.
I guess I don't really know where to go with that other than the fact that we were at the game, and yeah, there's not much more to share.
Unfortunately, I had orientation I wasn't allowed to miss, so couldn't come with the guys, but they had a lot of fun, I believe.
It was very fun, and
it was a good old time.
Unfortunately, they lost, but, it was still fun to be there.
We got to watch Jaren Hall play, so
yeah,
that's what we really care about. So that said, I think we can get started. Anyone else got anything? Also, if you notice that our lights are doing that, it's the weirdest thing. We have learned in our room that if you press the down arrow on the TV remote, like the volume button,
like this is a straight TV remote.
If you turn down the volume button, it affects. Okay, it's not right now, but it alters the lights because of I think the signal between the remote and the remote for our.
Oh, that's funny.
The LEDs. So it's
interesting.
Really
it's wild.
It is
crazy.
Really wild.
That is very weird.
Kind of that. All right, now, unless you got anything, I think we can kind of get into it.
No, let's get into it.
Panels, it does it.
Whoa, it switched colors too.
It switched colors.
This is a roller coaster here, guys. All right, I'll share my window. Let's fire it up. Let's do this, ladies and gentlemen. So we are going to start with. So that's the roster, as you can all tell. Can you guys see my mouse or not?
Yes.
Okay. So that's the roster. You can see that's cap space. That's the roster size, practice squad size. I'll just kind of scroll down a little bit. Obviously, you can see it for yourself. This is about what we're about to go through right now. That is the IR, the 4-game return IR minimum. And then we got the season-ending IR down there, too, for players. I got the depth chart up right here. We're going to go through that right now. And, yeah, that's kind of that. So with that said, we're going to just kick it off. We're obviously going to start with the offense at quarterback. They held on to Kirk Cousins. Obviously, they're not getting rid of him. Nick Mullins and Jaren Hall, they got rid of Jordan Ta'amu, who's just kind of a depth guy. I guess there isn't really much more to say here other than the fact that I'm not surprised by anything they did at the quarterback position here.
Yeah. So if Kirk dropped in the game, who do you think would be there? Nick Mullins or Jaren Hall?
Nick Mullins for sure.
Mullins for sure.
They're not throwing Jaren Hall in a regular season game this year unless it's like a blowout.
Okay, yeah. It's kind of what I was thinking, but you never know.
You do never know.
The Vikings decided to keep 3 quarterbacks on the roster, though. Jaren Hall is going to be a really good guy to have in the future, and if he can kind of form his passing game behind Kirk Cousins, which, in my opinion, is a top 10 passer in the NFL right now, I think that he could potentially be, the future of the Vikings quarterback position.
Yep.
I agree. He does have that potential, but we will see what the Vikings do here in the coming years because it'll be interesting whether they keep Kirk or, move away from that.
Yeah, I think the Vikings have just set themselves up really good right now to draft a quarterback next year, potentially high, just because of the fact that, Jaren Hall's a project quarterback. We all know that he was a 5th-round pick. It'll take some development for him to become a franchise quarterback. But the Vikings not the Vikings, the NFL next year, they have a lot of quarterback prospects that could be entering the draft. So that could set up very nicely for the Vikings, especially with Kirk Cousins in a contract year this year. And it doesn't seem like they're super intent on him being extended. And yeah, so that's that. With that said, we can keep moving, I think. This is a random question, but could you all see that I got a text or not?
Yes,
No.
we heard it.
We heard it.
I should
we heard
I,
it, but we could not see
I should have
anything.
muted it, but I'll do that next time. Sorry, I didn't even think about doing that. Probably gonna get some Twitter notifications too. So actually, I'll just do that right now. There, you guys don't need to hear that, so we're gonna go notifications off quick. Sorry to distract everyone here, but yeah. So you know what's interesting? On computers, it's still Twitter, but on phone, it's X now.
That's weird.
Weird. That is very weird.
We should be set up now. Then we can head into the running back position here. This is where there's not a whole lot of depth. Alexander Mattison obviously going to be the starter, along with Ty Chandler and Myles Gaskin, who they picked up right after the roster cuts. Ty Chandler was the fifth round pick, fourth or fifth round pick in 21, maybe 22. I don't even remember. But no, I think it's going to be a running back by committee. I've talked about this before. They're going to rotate players. Alexander Madison's never going to be a bell cow running back. And yeah, I'm interested to see what they can do with Madison, and Chandler doesn't have much experience, but I'm really interested in Myles Gaskin because he does have experience. He hasn't had the best experience per se, but he does have experience in the NFL. And I think that's going to be interesting to watch in the ways they use him this year.
Joel, I really agree with that. We got Alex Madison, the key-in starter for now. You got Myles Gaskin, the vet that, can pass down his knowledge to the young buck, Ty Chandler. It's the perfect running back room, in my opinion. Maybe not exactly perfect. We don't have a true star vet. But having that vet with Myles Gaskin is going to be really, really helpful for Ty Chandler.
Yeah, I got to agree with you guys there. And, even last year, you got Dalvin Cook's our starter, but Alexander Madison still got in a bunch on that. And they were successful doing that, so I don't see why they won't continue doing that. Joel, you're muted.
I am muted. You're right. I forgot that I did mute. Hey, we're going to work through these things. It's bound to happen to everyone. With that said, the running backs, obviously we just talked about them. I should have included CJ Ham in that, but I guess there's not really much to say with CJ Ham. So I think we can kind of keep moving along. Starters I thought was kind of interesting at wide receiver. Justin Jefferson and KJ Osborne are the listed two, even though obviously they have Jordan Addison as well. Looks like they're probably going to mix Jordan Addison in as the season comes along. Jalen Naylor's been hurt a lot of training camp, but he should be good to go again now. And Brandon Powell appears to be the likely punt returner for this team. So I guess I just thought it was interesting to see that they have KJ Osborne listed as the two, although I think they're going to phase him out and put Jordan Addison in more, even though they're going to use both of them. They like all three receivers, and they're going to use some three receiver sets throughout the year. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on that.
Yeah, I was really surprised that Jordan Addison hasn't taken the number 2 spot for the wide receivers yet. It does make a little bit of sense, though. They want to be able to develop him in game, going into this season. The Vikings are a team that, in the past have run heavy 2 tight end formations. So a lot of, Hawk and, in the past it was Munt. But, yeah, Jefferson and Osborne, they're going to play just about every snap of the year. Addison will get in a lot, I believe. As the number 3 nailer, I want to see him get in, get some playing time, possibly if there's an injury to be able to step up. I think that's a really great opportunity for him. As for Brandon Powell, like you said, he's currently the punt returner. And now with Kene Nwangwu not on the roster, he will probably be taking over the lead kick returner duties as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I gotta say, I believe Jordan Addison, I think it's mainly because he's a rookie that he's not listed as that starter there. And I feel like he will definitely get a lot of reps in here, especially as the wide receiver number 3. And yeah, it depends on how he does. I think he possibly could be that number 2 receiver in the about halfway through the season if he plays good enough.
I've been really impressed with Jordan Addison so far, just in the different clips I've seen of him in training camp, and as well as obviously we saw him in the preseason a little bit. He didn't get a whole lot of run there, which makes sense. But I mean, I just like Jordan Addison. Obviously, they used a high draft pick on him, 23rd overall, but I think he's going to live up to it, and I think he's got a lot of potential behind him.
Yeah.
With that said, we got the tight ends right here. kind of interesting. I thought it was interesting how they. So what's the personnel here? Okay. So it's 21 personnel. So it'd be 2 running backs, which are Madison and Ham are what they have listed, and 1 tight end. I thought they would have gone 12 personnel with the Hawk and Josh Oliver. So I thought that was a bit of an interesting note here. But TJ Hawkinson listed as the number 1, followed by Josh Oliver, Johnny Munt, who KOC said is the best 3rd tight end in the NFL, and then Nick Muse. But I guess there's nothing really surprising. I didn't think Nick Muse was going to make the roster, but he did have some good plays in the preseason. But I just think it's really interesting how they didn't list both Hawk and Oliver together. It's only Hawk listed as the starter. But that was what I thought was kind of interesting when I first saw this.
Yeah, it could be something to do with their game plan for week 1 there. Like, they're mainly going to maybe be running this format, but I guess we'll find out in game.
Of course, Hawk and Oliver are going to take the number 1 and 2 spot. I think that number 3 spot, though, could be up for grabs later in the season. Munt and Muse are both going to have phenomenal seasons for number 3 tight ends. I definitely see both of them having multiple touchdowns this year and getting a decent amount of playing time, whether it be on specials or if it be on offense. Let's say there's an injury to Oliver or, Hawkinson. I would never wish that upon them. But I think both of these guys are going to have the ability to be able to step up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we never really talked about the Hawk extension either. Anyone got thoughts on that? I'm trying to remember what I think it's 17 mil per year average annual value. It's a great deal.
The highest paid tight end in football, right?
Yeah.
Isn't it like 4-year, like 76 million or something?
Something like that, yeah.
65 million guaranteed.
And it includes, so it's for contract through 27. Also includes a void year in 28, but I don't recall the cap hit on that void year. But I think that's a good deal, I guess, on both ends for the Vikings and for the Hawkinson camp as well.
Yeah. I think Hawk definitely has potential to be the number 2 tight end in the NFL. Of course, it's going to be impossible to beat Travis Kelce. He's unbeatable at that position. He may be the greatest of all time.
Mm-hmm.
But Hawk is definitely a close second. I mean, he creates excellent separation with his route running. His hands are incredible. He's got excellent speed for a tight end, and he can block too. So there's really no downside to him, and I think making him the highest paid tight end in the NFL is actually just going to improve his production.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with that, and just like the fact that tight ends in this, like, whatever you want to call it, like this age we're in, are being used way more than they used to be. It seems like you're seeing tight ends get a lot more receptions, you get a lot more touchdowns, be utilized a lot more as more of a passing game. And I believe Hawkinson will be the perfect fit for the Vikings with this, and he will just be up there and do very good.
Yeah.
Do you guys see the Nick Bosa extension that happened earlier today?
I did. Was it how many years was it?
I honestly forget. We're gonna look it up though.
I believe it's
this does matter.
$70 million.
There you go. 5 years, 170. I divided it out earlier. It's $34 million per year.
That's unbelievable.
So the reason why it's so important was because it was between Justin Jefferson and Nick Bosa on who would get the contract done first, because now the camp that didn't get it done first is going to want more money than that. So not great on the Vikings end that this happened. I also did realize I never threw up the other banner. So let me throw up the other banner. Boom. There we go. Now we're cooking again. So, yep. So we're going to move to the offensive line. We got Christian Darrisaw, Brian O'Neill, obviously are the listed starters. Good to see that Brian O'Neill is healthy again after suffering an injury, a partially torn Achilles, if I remember correctly, in Green Bay last year. Then the backups, we got David Quesenberry. He was just signed right after the initial 53-man roster came out as a nice depth player. And then we got Oli Udoh on the right side, listed as the backup. Has had some good in his career. Also definitely has had some bad as well, but that's also mostly as a guard. So I just think the Vikings are pretty strong at the tackle position. We're going to look at the interior. in a little bit. But as far as tackle between Darisaw, O'Neal, and Quisenberry, I think they're in a pretty good spot.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you there that they are definitely good on the outside. The interior is a bit iffy yet, but hopefully we can develop that and hopefully give Kirk a little more protection this year than we did last year.
You know, unfortunately, our problem last year was we just had too many injuries, right? Darisaw was out for a decent portion of the season. O'Neal was out at one point in the season. I think Ed Ingram was hurt for a little bit. Garrett Bradbury and Blake Brandel both got hurt. So, I mean, if 4 of our starting offensive linemen get hurt again, we're going to have a tough season for Kirk Cousins and, you know, the run game in general. But I think that this season, hopefully, the linemen are going to come back. They're going to be healthy. They're going to be able to do some work and actually protect the quarterback.
Mm-hmm. So now we head to the interior, which was the Vikings' struggles last year. Ezra Cleveland listed as the left guard starter, Garrett Bradbury the center, and Ed Ingram as the right guard. Austin Schlottman, actually I'm pretty sure it's Schlotman, but let's all be honest, it's more fun to say Schlottman. So is listed as the backup center. And then I thought it was interesting to see how Blake Brandel, I don't know how long he's been listed as this, but he's listed as a guard now. He used to be the swing tackle for this team for many years, but now that's kind of what Oli Udoh is becoming. But I mean, it's just tough to see this position group because, I mean, Ezra, he's in his last year. They're not going to extend him. He was a former second-round pick. He's been very hit or miss. We'll just keep it with that. And there's been a lot of miss that we've seen. Garrett Bradbury has also had some hit or miss. He had a lot of miss in his first 3 years, and then he hit last year, hence the extension that they gave him following this past season during the offseason. And then Ed Ingram last year, arguably the worst guard in the entire NFL. And he's back, but is he better? I guess I don't know. So I am just worried about seeing – sorry, what were you saying?
I was just saying he better be, or the Vikings should just part ways with him.
Yeah. So I just think that I'm just nervous looking at this position group and the lack of depth, but also the lack of starting there is too. This is just one thing that I don't think is going to end well. Also, maybe they will sign Dalton Reisner in the end. Maybe they'll sign him after week 1 when his contract no longer has to be guaranteed. But yeah, this is one of the 2 position groups I have concern with, but it's the same 2 position groups I think every fan has had for like the past 5 years, so you can already guess what the other one I'm about to say later is. But yeah, so that's that.
So one more thing with this, the Vikings, unfortunately, there aren't many good offensive linemen on the free agent market right now. Hopefully there will be some coming up in, you know, from college that will be able to be drafted. But just for now, it's unbelievable how many not quality offensive linemen there are. It's almost like the practice has been lost. You know, people want to sign the excellent DNs and D tackles because they don't need to spend money on their offensive line. The thing with us is we don't have a mobile quarterback, so we need to be able to spend some money on that offensive line because we also need to have a strong run game. Of course, we had it with Dalvin Cook. Now we're, you know, decreasing our quality of running back. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this works out. Hopefully we'll be able to get some depth here in the next couple of years, maybe even soon with Dalton Reisner, but we'll find out. Joel, you're muted again.
Dang it. I mute myself in between talking every time because then I always take like sips of water and stuff. I'll get better at it eventually. Also, you guys can see each other, but I can't on my screen, so
No, that's
so
right.
maybe that's why.
Yeah.
But I'll figure it out. Actually, no, I'll fix it later. Yeah, we can keep getting into it. So now we head to the defense. I'm assuming they kept 25. Yep, they sure did. Jonathan Bullard and Dean Lowry listed as the starting DNs in this base 3-4 Brian Flores scheme. Jaquelin Roy, the rookie out of LSU, listed as the backup. Nothing surprising here. I was a little surprised they got rid of Ross Blacklock just because he was former second-round pick. Kwesi traded for him. I thought maybe he'd try and do something. Last year he traded for him. maybe try and do something with him, but he really didn't. So that was just a little bit of an interesting one that I thought when they were cutting players was Ross Blacklock. But otherwise, I don't know. There's nothing surprising here.
No.
Yeah. So that said, sorry, was someone going to say something?
No, I was just going to say, yeah, there's not much else to talk about the defensive ends there.
True. So then we got the nose tackle, Harrison Phillips listed as the starter. He's been a solid player, at least in my opinion. And then we got Tonga Time listed as the backup. I just love Tonga Time. Love the hair too. What's there not to like about Tonga Time? At the outside linebacker spot, we got Davenport, we got Daniil, and then the backups listed are Patrick Jones and DJ Wanham, as well as Andre Carter. More than likely, they were going to sneak Andre Carter through to the practice squad if possible, but they know he would have got picked up on waivers, so they kind of didn't have a choice other than to put him on their active roster. So,
you know, I was actually really impressed with Carter's play in the preseason. He did not look like an undrafted free agent. I mean, the same goes for Ivan Pace, of course, but defensive end, you know, the outside linebacker position, Andre Carter played it phenomenally. He was great at pushing down and squeezing down gaps. He was great at tackling. His speed was excellent. Of course, you know, it's pretty hard to top Daniil Hunter and Marcus Davenport, but Andre Carter could be a utility guy in the near future. He could be getting some playing time.
Yeah, I got to agree with you there.
So with that said, now we have the inside linebackers. Also, potentially a weak group, but also maybe not, depending on how you look at it. Starters listed are Jordan Hicks and Brian Asamoah. Yes, contrary to popular belief, his name is officially pronounced Asamoah and not Asamoah. He did come out recently and say that. Also, the backups listed are Ivan Pace Jr., who is the UDFA out of Cincinnati. Got a lot of run in the preseason, did a fantastic job for the most part in the preseason. And then Troy Dye, the fourth-year player out of Oregon. So I just think Jordan Hicks is going to be a starter. I think they're just going to – here, this is what I'll say. Jordan Hicks, Brian Asamoah, Ivan Pace, they're going to rotate them all. It's no starters and backups. All three of them are going to be moved around. And Troy Dye is just kind of a special teams player. But I'm really interested to see how they use Ivan Pace this year, as well as the speed of Asamoah as well. This is going to be a fun position group to watch. This is something where they got a really, really high ceiling, but it also could be catastrophic. But I'm just excited to see what they can do with a young group like this.
Yeah,
they definitely have
you know, Asamoah, he had a really great season in the times that he did play last year. He didn't really play very much, as we know. I mean, his time was really, really limited. But he actually came up with a forced fumble and fumble recovery in the game against the Giants. So I see him as actually a big playmaker. I mean, I think that if there were to be one shoe-in starter between these four people, I think Asamoah has the best upside, in my opinion. He's a super great athlete. I mean, excellent hands, great tackling, excellent speed. There's not really much downside to him.
Yeah, I got to say, with this group here, they got the potential there. They definitely can be a great group of linebackers there, but it's probably going to be how they're utilized in the schemes and everything that's going to put them in successful situations. So we'll have to see how Brian Flores actually utilizes them to see if he can make them successful or not.
In watching Pace throughout training camp and throughout the preseason, I honestly just wonder, how did he go undrafted? How did 32 teams pass on him however many times, and he didn't get picked up until the UDFA process? It blows my mind a little bit, but happy they got him, I guess.
I was seeing somewhere he was a little bit of a loose cannon sometimes and wouldn't always be consistently good. He'd have his ups and downs.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I was seeing is why he went as a undrafted free agent.
I think size is a big issue for him too, but I think he can compensate for it very well just with the way he plays.
There is one thing, though. His pass coverage wasn't excellent in the preseason. That's the one thing I'll say about him. He's amazing against the run. He's excellent at shedding blocks, great at tackling. but his pass coverage was a bit of a problem. So if he wants to get some more reps, he's really gonna need to improve on that.
I'm pretty sure in college, Pace was used more as a rusher more than coverage linebacker.
Yep.
I believe so. Might not get to see it a whole lot, but that is, and by a whole lot, I mean him dropping into coverage. With that said, we can head to the secondary. And what? Oh, I just got ads that popped up. We got the corner groups. We got Caleb Evans and Byron Murphy Jr., the listed starters. Andrew Booth Jr., Mekhi Blackman, and Najee Thompson are listed as the backups. So Caleb Evans, the 4th-round pick last year out of Mizzou. Then we got Byron Murphy, the big free agent addition by the Vikings. Andrew Booth Jr., the former 2nd-round pick out of Clemson. Mekhi Blackman, the 4th-round pick this year, I believe, out of USC. And then Najee Thompson, the UDFA, who was just a special teams punt gunning ace during the preseason this year.
Yeah.
So this is a very young group. I think eventually they will probably look to add maybe veteran depth at some point because, I mean, when you look at them, Evans is in his 2nd year. Byron Murphy is in, I'm assuming probably his 5th. He's probably coming off his rookie contract, I would assume. And then like Booth is in his 3rd year now. Blackman's a rookie, and Najee is probably not going to be used as a defensive player. But this is somewhere they're going to look to add depth at, and probably add veteran depth too, because they got rid of a lot of the vet depth. Obviously, Patrick Peterson's what comes to mind, because since he had 11 years in the NFL after this past year, something like that. But yeah, they don't really have a big leader anymore now that they nixed. Like I just said, why am I blanking? I was literally just said his name like 3 seconds ago. Patrick Peterson. And Eric Hendricks too. And I know that's a different position group, but yeah, I think this is just going to be interesting. They have high upside potential, but this is the other group that could have a big collapse potentially.
Yeah, Evans and Booth faced a lot of injuries last year. They barely played the whole season. However, with Evans, most of his injuries, I think he had 3 concussions last year. He now has the newest top-of-the-line helmet. It's called the Vices 02. That helmet has the lowest percentage of concussions in the entire NFL and is generally used as a quarterback helmet. Evans really needed that, though. He just needs to stay away from injuries. If he can stay healthy, hopefully he'll be able to produce.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So that said, I think one of the biggest interesting notes on this entire roster is the safety and the amount of players they kept. They kept 6 listed safeties. Cam Bynum and Harrison Smith are the listed starters. Then we got the former 1st-round pick Lewis Seen and the package player Josh Metellus, who did a really good job last year, and I think he'll do a really good job again this year in the Flores defense. Then we got Theo Jackson, who hasn't had a whole lot of run, but he did show some nice plays in the preseason. So obviously there's a reason why they kept him around with the 6 safeties. And then Jay Ward, who's the corner safety hybrid out of LSU as well. So it's just interesting to see how much depth they have and how they're going to use these players if it's going to be in like a rotation. Because obviously Harrison, you're not taking off the field. Cam Bynum's shown good stuff. He's also had some bad moments too. And then Lewis Seen, we have the expectation that he can be all the way up here, but he's just never been able to do it. Whether he's healthy or not, he just hasn't been able to do it. And then Metellus too, as far as just looking at players and mixing them around. And maybe even Theo Jackson can get in there too, because he is a special teams player, but I think they honestly could use him in defense if they really, really wanted to. So it's going to be really interesting to see how this shakes out and what players they put on the field and in what scenarios they put these players out there.
I was really surprised that Lewis Seen was not named a starter during the offseason. I do understand, yes, he missed the entire last season. He looked really, really good in the preseason, in my opinion. I think maybe he missed a couple tackles. Other than that, he hits hard. His coverage is great. I don't really see much downside to Seen. However, what this might mean is that Bynum has severely improved in the offseason, which could be a really great thing. So honestly, this safety group is incredibly talented. I think, if one of them goes down, another will be able to step up and fill that gap immediately. And, the fact that we're keeping 6 on here, Jay Ward can kind of float between corner and safety. So it's good to have that utility player in there. Plus Theo Jackson, Jay Ward, both, they can play, that nickel spot if needed, if we decide to take out a defensive lineman. So, I think this is a really great, very talented group.
Yeah, I got to say that. But yeah, I do think there's all that talent there. They're going to have to do some sort of rotation, or maybe it's going to be like a week to week who actually gets that true starting position there and who's going to be kind of like a rotation throughout the game to keep them fresh. But I do think that they will have a rotation there to keep all those guys fresh throughout the game and to keep the pressure on and make sure we can protect against the top there, over the top.
So we've done the offense, we've done the defense. Now it's time for everybody's favorite, and that is special teams, ladies and gentlemen. We got Greg Joseph. We got the Ryan Wright. Love Ryan Wright. We all do. Andrew DePaula. And listed as the kick returners, we got Ty Chandler listed as the starter, while Kene Wangu is on the injury reserve right now. And Brandon Powell listed as the backup. But as far as punt returner-wise, Brandon Powell listed as the starter with no backup behind him. But, I don't know. There's not much to say here. Nothing surprising.
Yeah.
No big moves. That's kind of that. Unless anyone got a thought on that, or not really?
Oh,
okay.
Same old special teams.
I'll see if we missed anything on the roster over here. So again, you can see they have about $3.6 million in cap space right now. That might change based on the Hawk extension, actually. This was a couple days ago, was the last time I looked at that figure, so it might be different. We can kind of look at the practice squad a little bit. They kept Dwayne McBride around, the 7th-round pick out of UAB, led the college football in rushing yards last year. No team was going to pick him up on waivers more than likely, so I think it's good that they're going to be able to have him around without having to take up a roster spot for him. With that said, they also got N'Keal Harry, the former first-round pick, who they cut, and now they just re-signed him again to the practice squad. Tristan Jackson, I'm surprised they were able to get him through waivers. He had some good plays in the preseason. He's had some good plays all around the Vikings. So I was surprised no teams picked up on him. Lucky Jackson Thayer Thomas also stuck around. Not even going to try and pronounce that name. Sorry, guys. I know you want me to, but I'm not going to. Then we got Tyrese Robinson and Henry Bird, couple offensive linemen. As we head down, Sheldon Day had some good plays in the preseason. TJ Smith. Luigi Villain also had some really, really good plays. I was hoping he wouldn't get picked up on waivers, and he was not. Benton Whitley, they held on to. Nick Vigil, the former Viking linebacker, who's back to being a Viking linebacker again after he was with the Chargers last, I believe. Unless that was before the Vikings. I don't remember. One of them. Then we got Joan Williams. We should talk about him. Former 2nd-round pick by the New England Patriots. He was a starter for a while in training camp with the Vikings. And I saw they were cutting him, and I was like, okay, that is actually really surprising. So I'm surprised that, well, no, I won't even say that. I was going to say I was surprised no teams picked him up, but I'm sure when they cut him, the Vikings said, we're going to sign you right back to our practice squad, so you don't even have to worry. But I just thought it was interesting that they put him on their practice squad and not on the active roster. But it does make sense when you look at all the younger players above him listed in that corner room. Don't want any of those players liable to being picked up by another team. So unless anyone else got a thought on Joan Williams?
No, yeah, I agree with you there. They got enough young talent about there. They don't really need to risk one of them going to a different team.
Because Joan Williams, I'm assuming he's in his 5th year. I'm assuming his rookie contract expired and then the Vikings signed him as a free agent. Yeah, he's 25, so that totally makes sense. And yeah, so then they also got Jalen Williams. He had some good plays in the preseason, and CJ Colden as well also had some hits and some misses as well, especially in the game we were at, Big Lou. I was looking out at specific players, and he was one guy that did catch my eye. He had a nice few different plays, was CJ there. With that said, no safeties, no other players, and like said, that is the 4-game IR. Kene is on it, and then the PUP, which is physically unable to perform list, Chris Reed's on it as well. They're both, the player has to be out minimum 4 games. So we'll see what they do with those guys. Then that's the season-ending IR. So that is that. That said, I think, and unless anyone has anything else, we can move on to predictions.
All right.
Let's do it. All right, let me stop sharing screen here. Boom. Wait, I do have to share screen again. My bad. I completely forgot. All right, now we're back again. So you guys should be able to see this. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So we got the predictions right here. You guys can all see them. We'll go through what's come off the board, and then we will unleash 3 new ones per usual. Off the board, I said Jaron Hall will account for at least 4 touchdowns in the preseason this year. I think he only did 1, and it was a passing touchdown in the 3rd preseason game, and that was it. I also said Jordan Addison will catch at least 1 touchdown in the preseason. He did not catch any. He also only played in the first game, I believe, and that was it. Sam over there said Delvin Cook will be signed by the Bills by season start. He went to the Jets. He said the Vikings will go 3-0 in the preseason. Well, they've lost 10 games in a row now in the preseason. Also, I didn't know whether to take this off or not, but I think it's pretty safe to do so. You said the average Vikings starting offensive line weight at the start of the season will be 320 plus. Well, if we go Darissa, Cleveland, Bradbury, Ingram, O'Neal, I calculated it, and I think it's like 309. So I think it's pretty safe to take that one off.
Yeah.
So I did. Big Lou is the only one with a correct one since the last episode we filmed. He said Justin Jefferson will be one of the captains. Ding, ding, ding. Big Lou, you got it.
Yep, he's a peer. I believe he was one of the peer voted captains, if I'm correct.
Yeah. So then we also got Big Lou said the Vikings will be 2-1 in the preseason. That is incorrect. They were 0-3. No listener ones have come off the board. That is the current updated status of the predictions right there. You guys can see. Sam now 4 for 11. I'm 3 for 11. Big Lou 1 for 6, but at least he's on the board. He was 0 for like 5 or something heading into that. And listeners only got 1 off, so they're 1 for 1 career. With that said, we can go left to right spreadsheet order, so I will kick us off. My first prediction. Let me take a look at my notebook to remember what my first one was again. All right, I got it. My first one is relating to this Sunday's Minnesota Vikings game as they host the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Ladies and gentlemen, I said, let me unleash it. Baker Mayfield will throw at least 2 picks in week 1 versus the Vikings. He's Baker Mayfield. That's all I got to say to that.
Oh, I can't wait to play Baker Mayfield. That's going to be so good for the Vikings secondary.
When you got Baker Mayfield and Kyle Trask,
confidence boost.
When your quarterbacks are Baker and Kyle Trask and they're competing for a spot, that's probably not good. But so yeah, I feel pretty good about that one right now.
I think you'll probably hit on that one.
Yeah.
I actually got something similar to that, Joel. Mine was the Vikings defense will force 2 or more turnovers in week 1 here.
That's really
you know what I'm gonna.
It is similar, but yeah.
You know what I'm gonna laugh at? If they force a special teams turnover.
That would be awesome.
I would have to laugh at that. That'd be pretty funny.
All right, you guys are going to need to fill these in for me because I don't have the right link.
That's totally okay. We got it.
But
I got it.
My first prediction here involves the newest member of the Minnesota Vikings, and that is Myles Gaskin. So my prediction is that Myles Gaskin will have at least 5 rushing touchdowns this season.
All right, I got it. Where's the plus sign? There it is. All right, perfect. I will now head over. My second prediction is another Viking-related prediction. I said, I looked to see if you guys did this one first, and you did not. I thought maybe someone did. I said the Minnesota Vikings will go exactly 4-2 in the division this season. I think they're going to drop 1 to the Lions, and I think they're going to drop 1 to the Packers, and I think they're going to sweep the Bears. But that's just how I see it. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I got to agree with you there. They probably will have that record in the division, but I don't know if it'll exactly be those teams that they lose to, but yeah. All right, my second prediction here is that between KJ Osborne and Justin Jefferson, they will have 2 or more touchdowns in week 1.
Okay, yeah, I get that.
You know, with how bad the Buccaneers secondary is, I think that it'd be safe to say that Justin Jefferson would have 2 or more touchdowns in week 1.
Yeah, but you don't know how they're going to utilize everyone because they could easily have Hawkinson get 1 and they could do a couple rushing there. There's only
Jordan
so
Addison
many.
could get in there.
Yeah,
Addison could
exactly.
get
So
in
there's so many weapons. It's hard to say who's really going to get them week 1.
Mm.
That's true. All right. My second prediction actually pertains to a rookie on the Lions.
Mm-hmm.
So that is that Jahmyr Gibbs will have at least 80 scrimmage yards in week 1.
Ooh, I like that.
So, of course, the Lions and the Chiefs, they're playing tomorrow. So I want to see Jahmyr Gibbs getting the ball. I want to see him catching it out of the backfield like he did in his days at Bama.
Mm-hmm. All right. With that said, there we go. All right. Onwards we go. My third and final prediction that I have is right here. Ed Ingram will not trip Kirk Cousins once this season. We saw it twice last year. It ain't happening again. Ed Ingram ain't tripping Kirk.
I don't know about that one, Joel. That one's kind of iffy.
It is iffy. I won't even lie, but I had to keep the optimism up for that one.
Yeah, and this one maybe interesting with a blind forest scheme and how the Buccaneers are going to play here. It might be interesting, but my prediction was the Vikings defense will have 3 or more sacks week 1.
Mm.
That's interesting because the Buccaneers have one of the better offensive line units in the NFL, at least in my opinion. I mean, when Tom Brady played there, he was one of the least sacked quarterbacks in the NFL. Granted, we're talking about Baker Mayfield here, but at the same time, that offensive line unit is still pretty elite.
Yeah.
But all right, with that being said, I will move on to my third prediction, and this actually pertains to one of the rookies for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So my next prediction is that Darnell Washington will have 3 or more games with 70 or more receiving yards.
Ooh.
Of course, he's not – I don't think he's currently listed as the starter. I think that's still Freiermuth. But I think Washington is going to get some decent playing time. Of course, at the Combine, we saw that crazy catch he had. He's got, I think he's 6'8", huge target, insane catch radius. I think that he's going to do really well as a receiver this year.
Yes.
Yep.
So that's all of our predictions. I think that kind of wraps it up for today.
Yep.
We don't really have any trivia for today. We had to give it a break for a week. So that said, I'll throw up that one more time. I can throw down that. And now we are all back on screen again. So that said, that is going to do it for this one. We have another episode coming soon, but we can't tell you anything more yet. You'll just have to stay tuned. That's going to do it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Any last thoughts from anyone that you want to share?
No.
Perfect. I'll sign us out then. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you're new. Click that like button. Drop a comment. All the above. We'll see you guys soon. And have a good night, all y'all. Peace out. And as always, SKOL Vikings. We will see you guys later.